I knew it was there. Call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock. If everybody would rise, and stand at the table. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Hill,
Here.
Treasurer Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Abbey. Here. Trustee Ostling,
Here.
Clerk Squires. Here.
Thank you. We have the first list for comments on agenda items. We're going to defer from just a general on all the general items today, meaning if you have a comment about one of the agenda items, we'll take comments at that time. On the specific issue, I know there's a couple issues here that some folks might want to speak on. When we do this, for public speaking, you're going to raise your hands. I will call on you individually. 3 minutes in good times, 3 minutes in challenging times. I'll ask you to individually come up to the seat here. There's a microphone in front of you and it has to have a green ring around it, which there's a button there. So make sure that it has it on it before you start to address the board. Anybody have any questions about the order of what we're doing there today? No? Okay, very good. Moving right along. Our building and zoning, all of our department heads submit in a written report to the board members well ahead of the board meeting. So we're just for the sake of speed today, because I know we got a lot on the agenda, we're just going to acknowledge those today, unless the department head has a particular ask of the township board that they need our assistance with at a future meeting or anything else. So building and zoning, I had already consulted with Jason. Board, you should all have a copy of his report. Russ Marina, number 2, we'll acknowledge your written report this morning as well. Is there anything you'd like to tell us? Okay. Okay, so for Zoom, if there's anybody out there, 4th of July weekend went well and it was pretty calm. Russ, as always, I give my folks a chance to jettison from the length of the meeting and get back to work. So thank you very much for your report this morning. Your board members have any question for Russ? Okay, very good. Thanks, Russ. Police Department. You have one item, okay? Morning.
Just jump to number 6 there. With the hiring of Dallas McGurry, today being his first day, looking for a spot at the July 16th regular board meeting for the formal swearing in of him. And then I'll have that oath of office and provide that to you at that time.
Okay, very good. And board members, any questions? Chief Mashinsky. Chief, I'll make sure I put you in for the formal swearing in of Dallas for the ceremonial.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You. You unfortunately cannot leave. You are my sergeant of arms. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. So number 4, fire and EMS. Brandon, you're representing. Do you have anything we need to know?
Just 2 things.
Okay.
Our 232, our main ambulance, is still out of commission. It's down in Mount Pleasant at Crapel Ford currently, and we'll be there until the issues are fixed with it. So we have contacted Ford above the dealership and are waiting to hear back from them directly. So We'll keep you. It was done and came back and then had other issues once we got it back. So
it's the same issue over and over.
Yes. So we're working, we've gone above the dealership now and we're waiting to hear back from there. customer service. So, and the other item is just an item of information. August 2nd will be our annual department open house, just so the public and the board are aware. It'll be from 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on August 2nd. That's all I have.
Okay, very good. Board, any questions for Brandon this morning? Keep up the great work, guys. You guys are doing wonderful. I love the reports. Are very informative for the board. Number 5, that's just mine. Quick GLUA dissolution update. You all probably read about as much as there was to read about GLUA in a Holton Lake article recently. From their last meeting, they have chosen now to apparently seek a counsel for themselves, their corporation, on the closing pieces, and seems the sticking point on the dissolution of this organization is who or what get the proceeds which might be left at the time of a closure of the corporation. About $50,000 roughly, and 2 attorneys have already essentially weighed in, and so now they felt they needed to have somebody else. And so I'm waiting to hear from Chair Barnwell from GLUA about that meeting, and there may be a meeting of the 3 attorneys together, and perhaps maybe they can come up with unwinding that as the best as possible. The articles of incorporation were vacant in discussion of exactly what happened if it were to fail. And so that's kind of where we're sitting at this point. Other than that, there's no other activity, I think, running with it or otherwise now. We received most everything that we've asked for. Now we just wait. Anybody have any questions on that from the audience? Board members? How long we wait depends on the board in the future. So, yeah, me too. Number 6, Parks and Recreation. We have a submitted report from Susan Seemack in the Parks and Rec Committee. Susan, you have something of interest. I noted you did have one thing there for sure. So we'll go ahead and approach, have a seat.
Thank you.
Sure.
There are several things on here that I can just take up with people individually offline, but the one thing that I wanted to ask today was in the Gerrish Municipal Park section, the 3rd one down. I wanted to ask whether the park or the court camera could be made available for public viewing via streaming on the website or something. So I'm going to put that out there and see if that was a issue you could discuss, or if you had discussed it in the past and already had an answer. Again, I'll just bring it up today and we can follow up. And
well, to be honest with you, I'm gonna talk about 2 things, and I'm not totally mute to what goes on in the public out there, but people have been asking about where is the cam that was at the marina. 9 and 10 News owned that camera, arranged by the previous supervisor before he left. They said, hey, we're going to put it in another spot. So, Susan, I don't know what it takes to get that done. And I personally myself, I don't have an issue with it. It's just a matter of what is the technology to get it done. So,
is that something that I could reach out to Honor Security to ask about, or is there is it an internal issue?
I'm going to take care of it with Honor and discuss, and I'll get information to you if it's needed. Board, are you opposed to me exploring that option? I know what it is. They like to look out at the lake and the marina to see whether or not it's a good weekend to come up. I know that. There's the pickleball courts. They like to know what's going on at the pickleball courts before they get in their cars and drive over there. That's what I'm sensing, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So really, you're talking about seasonal, because you wouldn't care about that.
Right.
Come.
That is true.
After September.
And I'm not sure what the
October.
technicalities are to do it in technology wise. I wouldn't think it would be great. It has to have an address to put for that. And so it should be just a matter of putting a link. It should be, I think, but let me get with Honor on it.
Okay. That'd be great.
But I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Because you're going
to marina and
ask about the other camera.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Questions for me on this?
No, thank you very much. Jim, a brief high-level health of Higgins Lake update, other than all the committees are working.
These are working, and I'm monitor, I see what they're doing. I talk to individuals often that are working on these committees, and there's a bunch of really good thoughts and ideas and the work getting started. Facebook page, communications people are just coming up with all kinds of great ideas and making stuff happen. And so you just try to keep things out of it and just let them do their thing. And the steering committee will have a report for the board next week. Sort of a summary of the work that the committees are working on. And that's the plan. That's the way we kind of want to go. Keep that. Keep that. My apologies. I wanted to keep that that hierarchy going, so the steering committee basically gets the information out to folks. I would like to mention though that there was that Dr. Lutonen was hosted up here by the foundation at a presentation on must have been Tuesday night. And once again, I've seen it before or pieces of it before, but things haven't changed. There are still issues and, technical issues that the scientists are aware of and would go on. And so the work that we're doing is all focused on the stuff that he's talking about and the presentations he made. So there's an open house on the 19th, July 19th. Yep. July 19th coming up here for that the Health of Higgins Lake is putting on. So we're hoping to get a nice crowd for that. So tell your friends.
Very good. Questions, board? Jim? Nothing? Audience, questions, Commissioner Wrestling at all on that issue?
I was just going to add that.
Is your mic on?
I was just going to add that the Facebook, Health of Higgins Lake Facebook is up and running.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's interesting.
You can keep track, and that's set up as an informational Facebook. That'll be output from the Health of Higgins Lake information, not so much a two-way correspondence, but it's an informational type Facebook. So,
okay, very good.
That's it.
All right. Number 8 on the agenda is the cell tower proposal information. Is there somebody in the audience that was from?
Yeah, I want to start it off that
Okay.
This proposal for this cell tower is on a piece of property that I own, and I have recused myself from the beginning of this, and I'm going to continue to do that. So I'm just going to sit here and listen in. So that's why I'm not saying anything.
Thank you. So is there anybody have any information on that?
Do you want to do public comment before or after they speak?
It's up to you. Do you want to do that? What do you guys want to do? Have a comment first? I am going to allow, I'd like to do it after, I think, though. It's what we usually do.
So
Come on in. Make sure that green light on the ring is running there, is on. Very good. Speak loudly as you can. Our acoustics aren't very well in here. I see we do have at least one other Zoom person up there. So that's for their benefit too. It's also for the benefit of the audience until we get our speakers adjusted to the back and all that yet. So the floor is yours, folks.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are here with regard to a cell tower. You have the details that have been submitted to both the Planning Commission previously and to you fellows as well. In terms of what we're trying to propose, let me try to describe the process a little bit of how we select a site. Can everybody hear?
You can't hear a thing? That is closer.
Okay, better? Better? Okay, got it. All right. A cell tower creates what is called a cell. That's the reason why it's called a cell phone in the first place. Each tower creates a roughly circular area around it, which is the area of decent or good coverage for purposes of the operation of the phone. Each of the existing sites is set up so that each of those individual cells will bump up next to each other in a nice honeycomb fashion. Actually, that's probably the easiest way to think about it, a honeycomb cell. Each of these cells has to bump up against each other just to the point of touching, but not to the point of overlapping or leaving a gap. If it overlaps, the area of overlap between two towers is an area of destructive interference, meaning that you get little or no connectivity at all. No, there's a tower right there. If you leave a small gap between the two areas, that small gap is now permanent. There is no way to place a tower in between that small gap without creating a massive zone of destructive interference. As a result, in terms of identifying where these towers are going to go, there's not a large amount of latitude about where you can move it. We are given by the RF engineer from, in this case, Verizon, the coordinates of where he would like the tower to be. If he candid, usually just tells us put it right here and doesn't give us any latitude, but we say we've got to have some latitude. So they give us about a 1/4 mile in diameter, not in a radius, in diameter, that we can go outside of, or we can go inside of. And that creates what we call the search ring, the area in which the tower must be located in order to be able to provide coverage in a way that meets that cell, the honeycomb pattern. In this case, the site that has been identified is located at the northernmost edge of the search ring. We're just barely inside the search ring at this point. Going any farther in a northern direction will take it outside of that search ring, and you will have the problems of destructive interference, etc. Fortunately for us, the site that we have chosen that is within the search ring is both a commercially zoned piece of property, but is within sighting distance of residential, so that it can provide that service to those residential areas. In addition, this site happens to be, in addition to being a commercial zone, it's in a densely wooded area. And if we had to go farther north, you would have found much more clear-cut, more open areas where the tower would be much more visible. If you'd gone in the other direction, you would have, again, gone outside the search ring, but more importantly, would have started to get into areas where there was more residential involved. The place that we've located, that we're proposing to locate it, like I said, is a commercial zone. The tower itself will be 199 feet tall. It is purposely 1 foot shorter than 200 in order to avoid having to put any lights on it. So it will have no lights on the top of it or only on the sides that will be cast downward. That's at ground level for purposes of being able to, motion activated so that when someone's there, they can see. The site itself is ultimately going to be 100 by 100. It's going to start as 67 by 67. That's how much it would be fenced in. And as more carriers come online, they'll expand the ground space to include those additional carriers as they come online. The first carrier as mentioned is Verizon. So the data that you have in your packets comes from Verizon engineering sources for the most part, but in some cases is generated by us, White Rock, for purposes of our operations as well. In your packets is something we refer to as a propagation map. It is the yellow, green, and red map that you saw there. It shows in a graphic way how the coverage changes and the current coverage. As might be expected, the red area is the area of difficulty. Probably all of you have experienced dropped calls and difficulties in terms of being able to use your cell phones. As a matter of public safety, and as a matter of just telecommunications in general, the Department of Homeland Security has identified cell phone use and the existence of towers as being a priority for purposes of reacting to national emergencies. As an example, when Hurricane Katrina occurred, the only functional lines of communication were by cell phones. The towers all stayed up despite the hurricanes, despite the winds. They stayed up, they continued to operate, and people were helped who might otherwise have had more difficulty or not been helped at all. And it was because of that particular event, Katrina, that the Department of Homeland Security required all locations, including this one, to have a generator on site so that in the event of a power outage, that the generators could continue to operate, continue to cause the cell phones to operate. So this site will also have a generator. It'll be at the base of the site. As mentioned, the site is heavily wooded all the way around it, and what we're putting into it. So for the most part, about 90% of the tower won't even be visible from any location. And the farther you get away from it, the less you can see of it. So there's a certain point you won't be able to see it at all. The idea of South Towers, as you probably have heard, is they work both site. Each tower has to see the other tower in order to deliver the signal. What happens when you're on a cell phone, and if you're moving, like for example in a car, the way in which the cell phone provides the signal is it literally piggybacks it, jumps it to the next site. So it'll send the signal to the next site. It'll be received by that tower, and then it'll move on. As mentioned, it's a matter of both emergency services as well as just general usage. As of this point, more than 70% of America has no landline at all. They don't even use phones anymore, or landline phones. At some point or another, telephone wires will become a thing of the past because of the increasing usages of cell phones at that point. The other thing that's important is that of the phone calls that go to 911, 93% of them come from a cell phone, which is not surprising. As a result, they tend to be considered a primary source of emergency usage. So that's what we're proposing in this circumstance, a tower that we've placed. We make a significant effort to be able to do this. You folks are one of 24 different agencies that have to approve this tower in order to go in. Most of those approvals we try to do simultaneously. Some of them we have to wait on other approvals before we can move on to the next approval. But as a general matter, this requires a lot of work. It's the whole process from identifying a need to the point of getting a tower takes a minimum of 2 years and usually a lot longer in terms of the process. We make every effort to try to find a site that is both appropriate and would actually do the job. We are required by federal law to be able to provide those kinds of provide this service throughout all of America, but in particular in rural areas where we have a particular mandate by the federal government to make sure that there's cell service available to that. And as you know, the cell phone is not just simply a phone anymore. Right. It gets you internet access. People rely on it for purposes of work. Even agricultural uses now use the GPS functions of cell phones as a means of being able to make agricultural activity more efficient. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we're proposing in this circumstance. We obviously are here to answer any questions you may have. We'll do the same at the actual board meeting. But if we understand this would be a work session, and if there's anything you wanted to talk about in particular,
this is
we're happy to do.
Sure. Can you, because one of the reasons that this is coming to us is that there's a variance that's needed because of the proximity of can you speak on the engineering of the tower?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
In relation to the catastrophic event?
Sure can. A cell phone tower is designed to have a structural breakpoint, if you will. Before I go into it, let me first start out with one very important fact. No Verizon monopole that are designed to Verizon standards has ever fallen.
Sorry, could you say that again? Speak up.
No Verizon monopole has ever fallen.
Okay, thank you.
They have all been subjected to a variety of catastrophic events, winds, tornadoes, vehicle hits, all kinds of other things that could potentially cause problems for a cell tower, and none of them have ever fallen. But despite that fact, they're also designed in a particular way. A particular tower that's a monopole, when it's put in, has a base, a concrete base that is 30 or 20 to 40 feet deep. In terms of being held in. That's why it stays up. It is that concrete of a, no pun intended, of a base in terms of its holding. On top of that, the tower itself is designed so that it doesn't do this. It doesn't topple over like a tree. It crimps. it literally will fall over on itself. So that rather than a tower having the 200-foot radius of where it could end up, it has more like about a 50-foot radius of where it's going to fall, because it crimps over on itself. And then if it was ever to fall in an unbelievable first time event, it would fall in that area. So while we don't meet the setback requirements, which require there to be a full height of the tower from the rear property line that we're talking about here, that would we're asking for this board to exercise the discretion that it has pursuant to the ordinance to be able to waive that requirement and allow us to place the tower at that point. It also helps to do that because, as I mentioned, it's the rear line that's the issue. So if we had to push it farther forward, we're actually pushing it farther forward and making it more visible than it would be otherwise. So there is some rationale for trying to keep it back farther on the property line. Just basically nestled back within those bunch of trees. And we're expecting there's a little disadvantage in doing that because of the fact that these towers are designed the way they are and are so structurally safe.
For the folks in the audience, this came through the Planning Commission that they've looked at this really well. Jim, you're on the liaison there. The variance itself, the tower, lacks 3 feet? The property
Well, I
pieces.
think
Explain that, please.
the way the ordinance is written, I think that it would be required to have a 200-foot setback, and that was written. I don't know when that ordinance was designed, but with the current engineering, as you just said, the tower doesn't need that far back, but because the ordinance is written that way, they need to get a variance from this board to be able to have it within 100 feet of the property line. The Planning Commission was already dealing with that when I got on board in November. So they've done their due diligence. They've made their recommendations, which are included in here. I think there's 3 different motions that have to be adopted by this board, which would mirror what the Planning Commission had, which I think is for the preliminary plan, the setback variance, and then the final plan. And I see Mike's in here, but I don't know if Tom's here. But as far as the Planning Commission, they're satisfied that everything's been met, and their recommendation is to move forward. So it's up to this board then to make the final decision at the township level on that same matter.
If it's any help, the section we're talking about is 7.28B2A. The township board may waive any of the standards if justified by circumstances.
Right. And just as a follow-up to that as well, that has been reviewed by our township attorney as well, indicating that indeed we do have the authority to do that in that section, to do that for board members, just so that you know that has been done, that due diligence. Board members, do you have any other questions? Okay. You said you guys do the site selection, and I'm assuming, there have been other cell tower constructions or attempts to do, recently in the last few years. Is that your company as well, or is that other companies?
It could be any number of companies.
It could be.
There's 3 major carriers.
Okay.
So each of them has their individual site acts.
Okay.
There are literally dozens of tower construction companies. White Rock, our entity, is just one of them. Each of them has their own site acquisition parties who also deal with this. So it could be any number of persons who could at any particular time have come to be able to look at a site. Claudine and I have been doing this for 25 years.
Okay.
And so we've gone through all the iterations at one point or another about how this is done. And we've seen it all happen, so we can probably answer most questions
Right.
about that. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily us. It isn't necessarily White Rock. Probably wasn't White Rock that you may be thinking about. It could be any number of other companies who could have been a tower company. We refer to them as BTS companies, build to suit companies.
Okay.
So
And then the process for this one, when you did it, how long ago did you identify that as a site? As
what's the
of
first time?
interest, roughly?
I'm gonna pull the skip and see what it says. Oh, from when the skip was approved in 2023.
23. Yes.
And there's an event before the skip is approved. There's a bunch of stuff that happens before this. The identifying of a site and a need for it usually happens a few months before skip is a site candidate package.
Okay.
And that site candidate package is submitted to the or to the carrier, in this case Verizon, and they look at the circumstances and they say this one will work, this one won't, et cetera. So they're given several opportunities to look at it, but a lot of stuff happens before that. So my guess is that this probably late 2022, early 2023 is when this first started as a process.
For the public, I want you to understand that's well before our trustee Osling, who happens to own the property, became any type of trustee for this township. Just to make that clarification, much has meandered around about it. It's that was just this, a well laid out plan. It was not. Board, do you have any other questions of the company reps here? I do not.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. We will likely take this stuff up, I think, at the next meeting, July 16th, I believe it is, as far as motions, if the board decides that route. Is there a public comment out there? Again, if there is a public comment out there, please raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you. You come on up if you have any comment, question, or otherwise about it. I'm happy to take that. Anybody in the town hall at this point? All right, I'm not seeing any on Zoom. All right, looks like we have one. Can you read the name? I can't see it from here.
Robert Janowski. If
Can you
this,
speak, Robert? Can you speak up? Speak up, please.
Yeah, I know. I can hardly hear you guys as well.
Yeah, we have the same problem.
Something. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you. We'll keep going.
Okay. If it was denied, would they just pack up and just, forget about putting a cell tower here? I mean, I understand what they said. The research has been done, but I'd like to hear. I mean, if it was not approved, my suggestion was at the cemetery. So it's a one-time offer, and what, they're going to walk away from the table, or would they reconsider anything else?
I can't answer that, but are you willing to come up and do that, sir? Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Right.
If it gets opposed, what will we do?
Yep.
There's a lot of other things. I think I heard mention of a cemetery.
Yeah.
This was mentioned to us before, and it was actually a candidate that we considered, but the cemetery is outside the search ring. It's a good half mile outside the search ring, almost a half mile. It's also a lot closer to the residential area than there's a lot more dense residential around that cemetery than there is at the site we were proposing. So that's what we did. So bottom line is that we chose this site because it is more appropriate. We would not choose this. If this site was rejected, the one thing we certainly wouldn't do is go to the cemetery. It's outside the search ring and it has all the problems I just described about what the situation is. There would be overlapping coverage to the tower to the north. And Verizon wouldn't want to be there. We have to build towers for White Rock. We build towers because we want to get people to go on our towers and pay us money.
Right.
And they're not going to do that if they can't use the tower appropriately. So we're not going to build a tower just on a guess that they'll come. We know ahead of time whether or not they're going to go on it, and Verizon would not go on a tower that went on the cemetery. What would we do? White Rock do in the event that it was rejected? We'd have to consider all our options in connection with it. We feel this is a very appropriate site. We feel we meet all the ordinance requirements. We would have to consider whether or not we'd have to challenge it. A challenge of denial. But, there's no guarantee. I don't know what we would decide to do. This is a very high priority site for Verizon. I mean, you all had the same problems with, your cell phones and the like. So you know what the difficulty is with the coverage in this area. And it has reached, we create something called trouble tickets. That's not us, but Verizon does this.
Right.
And the more trouble tickets that a particular area gets, the higher it rises on the level of priority. This is in the top 10 for Verizon, at least. So as a result, I mean, it's important. Verizon really wants to get this, and I'm now going to sound like I'm doing a Verizon ad, but Verizon really does have the largest coverage area, to the extent that Verizon doesn't have coverage in an area, pretty much nobody else does either. Not a guarantee, but mostly that's what the case is.
Obviously, we hear a lot in the community about cell phone, and especially when we manage to, shall I say, overpopulate for a small period of time. If people get knocked off on that, so yeah, I don't think there's a question of whether there's a need.
Yeah. So in terms of us, like I said, this is a very, very long process. We have to consider all kinds of things for purposes of doing it. The zoning ordinance isn't the only thing that we consider. There's a lot of careful consideration that goes into where you're going to put a site ultimately. And we don't take these lightly in terms of doing it. Neither does Verizon. We're trying to do the best we can in, like I said, a difficult situation with 24 people, 24 different agencies weighing in on our decisions. So we have to make sure everybody is satisfied. Ultimately, this site does that, and we've gotten most of those approvals already. The 24. So
thank you very much for that. To our Zoom participant there, do you have any follow-up question?
No, but I just, I live here and I beg to differ that there's more residential at the cemetery as opposed to Metal Arc, which is, currently being developed. And, you're going to have houses, less than 100 feet from that tower once Metal Arc is developed. So, just my opinion. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else, any follow-up for our tower representatives before I offer them the chance to get out of the meeting, if they so wish? Anybody? The gentleman that's up here speaking on behalf of the tower company, could you provide our gal here with your name?
Okay, sorry.
So that she has it for our minutes and records, please.
Sure. My name is Robert LaBelle, Rob, Labelle. I'm a zoning consultant for White Rock. I'm one of the contractors. With me was Claudine Anton. She's the actual site acquisition specialist hired by White Rock to find a location.
What is her name?
Claudine Anton Bushway.
Is that like common spelling or? Can you help us out?
Do Bushway, Bushway. That's her last name, middle name. Anton, Anton.
Okay, they kind of all ran together when you said.
Yeah, sorry.
And I'm like, I'm not even going to.
In fact, the first name I gave you was her maiden name, and Bushway is. We've known each other a long time.
Listen, on behalf of the board, we really appreciate you coming today,
and it helps any too in terms of the numbers. I did sort of a little informal research on the internet to try to figure out, on a Google map. Within 750 feet of the site that we have, there's one home right now. If at the cemetery, there'd be 28 within 750 feet.
Within 750, one home.
Anyways, because
it's outside the fund. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment over here? All right, very good. We're going to move on to the review and comments, obviously, of the Gerrish Township Planning Commission's work on short-term rental ordinance consideration. And just for a quick brief and frame here, we obviously the Planning Commission's worked on this initially. They came out with their draft that really had some administrative tasks to it. For the board to have to fill in the blanks and of particular issues. At that point at our last meeting, Treasurer Anderson agreed to be the point person on that. He has done a incredible amount of work in the last month of kind of feathering in the thoughts, discussions, each board member gave them list, shall I say, list of concerns or points that they want to make sure that either get addressed, debated, or otherwise from the board's perspective. So the mission today is, although we're going to have have a discussion. There still has to be a public hearing once once we all grasp an ordinance we can get our hands around, and then a public hearing also required before we would do any ordinance. So we're not enacting an ordinance today or anything. We are merely discussing the principal items and also with the public's opinion. We have, I know my email has gotten some attention there regarding short-term rentals. And I printed those off and kept them with mine in here, both for, both against. So with that, I think I've done about as much framing as I can. Jim, do you want to lead?
Well, do you want
points, or
comments?
would you like to do public first?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what they've got to
All right,
say.
very good.
Then
Once
we can
again,
start talking.
hey, we got a hand up right in the back. Come on up, sir, with the hat on.
Thank you.
And then once you get up here again, identify yourself so that the deputy clerk here can get it in the minutes properly. And then whatever you'd like, 3 minutes again. Michelle, will you do a 3-minute for me there? Okay, thank you very much.
I got less than that. Tom Cochran off of Shaney Point.
Tom Cochran.
I just want to explain that I've had the opportunity of being next to a short-term rental, VVRO. The issues that I had at that time was the one rental came up with a lot of ATVs. They had a lot of trailers. I had to call the owner to tell them to call to get off my property so I could mow the grass. Another one is that the pictures that they used to set up this short-term rental use my property as on their pictures. So the people thought they were on their property. They were on my property. And I said, I can't have you on my property because of liability. I asked them to please move back. And they resisted for a minute. I made a phone call. They moved over. I said, this is not the property. And they reshot the pictures, but originally I had the issues of people parking and people being on the property. That's going forward. Keep in mind that when these people do rent, how many vehicles are they going to have? How many people are they going to have? That's all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Number of people. Very good. Gentleman in the red. I think it's red.
There's two of them.
What is it?
Hi, Mary Jo. How are you? Good, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Feudald at 123 Cheney Point, just down the road.
Can you spell your last name?
Of course, F as in Frank, U, D as in David, O, L, D as in David.
You have the floor.
The way we see it, R1 residential zoning has a very defined purpose. All of them contemplate single-family ownership for their private and personal enjoyment. That's the way we see R1 residential zoning. While an argument can be made for an occasional rental, within the scope of the R1 zoning, the purchasing, in my view, the purchasing of a property for the specific commercial intent of continuous short-term rentals is far beyond the scope of the zoning. Again, an argument can be made for that, and I'm not opposed to that. We are not opposed to that. My wife and I are not opposed to that. Week, a month, maybe something less. But with the specific intent of turning an R1 zoned property into a commercial operation is way beyond the contemplative scope of the zoning. My friends downstate that have shared rental properties and stories with us, I imagine it's similar here. By their very definition, renters are transients. They're in, they're out. They don't have an allegiance to their neighbors, the neighborhood, the lake, the road, a septic system designed for 4 or 5 people with 14 people a week there. They're in, they're out. That's really an important point. They just, by their very nature, they're not owners. My wife, her family, us, we've been coming up here for more than 50 years. We'd like the lake and the the area to kind of remain what it is. Although change is inevitable, not all of it is beneficial. I think this should be very, very strongly considered. We respectfully urge the board to draft an ordinance that specifically and somewhat significantly limits short-term rentals. And if that is abused, that there is some teeth in the restriction so that it hurts if that is abused. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is that a white hat? Tan hat? I don't know. I'm color challenged, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
Am I on? Yeah, it's red.
Yeah, the floor is yours, sirs. Just
My name is
name and
David
spell.
Powell, Powell. I'm a resident from 137 Shaney Point Drive, down the street. Mark, my neighbor, prior party, took the wind out of my sails because it's exactly what I was concerned about was the zoning of R1. And I thought to myself this morning, what's next? Is there going to be a restaurant? Is it whatever? So my point is, I greatly appreciate you guys addressing this. And I echo everything that Mark has said. I think you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this morning. Gentleman over in another red shirt. Come on up.
Good morning. My name is Nick Dragon. I reside
Nick,
at.
nice to meet you and put a face to the.
Thank you.
Very good. Go ahead, sir.
Reside at 1130 West Higgins Lake Drive. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the township and the board regarding the proposed short-term rental ordinance. I recognize that your role involves a challenging task of balancing often competing interests of property owners in Gerrish Township. One of your responsibilities is to determine whether new regulations or ordinances are even necessary. Typically, such regulations limit or even eliminate certain rights of property owners. It's for that reason, among others, that I oppose the proposed ordinance. The ordinance, in my opinion, is unnecessary, imposes an undue burden on property owners, and has the potential to disrupt or reduce local commerce in Gerrish Township. Number one, the ordinance is unnecessary. We already have ordinances in place that address the very concerns that proposed regulation claims to solve. Complaints about excessive noise, unruly behavior, illegal fireworks, or improperly parked vehicles, or somebody else trespassing on someone else's property are covered under ordinances 19, 29, and 45. These rules apply to anyone, whether they're a renter or full-time resident. If someone is breaking the rules, the solution is simple. Call the police. I've yet to hear a single complaint about a short-term renter that isn't already covered by an existing ordinance. If we simply enforce the ordinances that we have, there's no more need for additional regulation. Number two, it creates an undue burden on property owners. The proposed ordinances impose an excessive annual fee of $400, $100 for an application, which effectively acts as a tax. In addition, it introduces mandatory inspections and possibilities of spot inspections. Does this mean someone can come onto my property and just look around? That seems contrary to the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches. Worse, the ordinance does not clearly define what is being inspected, what the standards are, how compliance is measured. How are property owners supposed to comply with vague and undefined rules? The lack of clarity is precisely what makes compliance burdensome and potentially unfair. Lastly, third, has the potential to harm local commerce. Capping short-term rentals at an arbitrary number without regard for current or future demand has a chilling effect on local businesses. My rental property supports over 15 small businesses in the area, including, not limited to, property managers, cleaning companies, landscapers, septic services, propane delivery, dock installation and removal, snow plowing, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, tree trimming, asphalt, paving, well service, firewood suppliers. Each of these businesses. Okay, thank you.
You did submit this also. I just want to let people know there, you did submit it in writing to us as well. I just looked at my email a bit ago.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to meet you. Anybody else out there? Public comment? Yes, sir. Come on up.
For the record, this is not very prepared, but my name is Don Cheney, Cheney Point Drive, obviously. My great grandmother started a resort, so I can't really complain too much about resorts, obviously. My concern is anecdotal. In the spring, we traveled to Portugal. In Portugal, the whole Airbnb industry is exploding. My concern for the raise in the cost of living there, I'm afraid may translate over here. Not that I want to see my property values decrease at all, but short-term rentals, I believe, will increase property values, which is great for some. In my case, fourth generation, property value to me is immaterial. We're never going to sell. So the concern is that if rent or cost of ownership increases to the point where local people can't afford to live here any longer, that in itself will stifle local commerce. I guess I'm hoping I made myself clear. That's all I have to say.
Understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Herb.
In my opinion, I think that short-term rentals is going to be very, very disruptive to our neighborhood. You know, we're used to having families that we know, and of course they have their relatives up and we get to know them and everything, and we're comfortable with that. But when we start getting strangers coming and going on an almost daily basis, it's very disruptive. You don't know who you got next door to you or what they may be doing. And it makes me very uncomfortable to have these people next door to me already coming and going. The other thing that hits me is some of the other folks have talked about the residential area. When you start having permits, it's what the proposal is for short-term rentals. Aren't you giving them a permit to run a business in a residential area? I think that should be looked into by the law, because that seems to me is that you're advocating that they can run a business in a residential area and you've given them permission to do that. So I think that should be looked at by some lawyer that understands that kind of thing. But I do think there should be limitations on it, because like I say, I've got people next door to me I don't know, and they come and they go. And I'm used to having people there all the time that I've known for years. And when their families come up, I know their families.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start having people come on a daily basis, it's very disruptive. Spoils the whole thing.
Okay. Thank you, Herb. Herb. You know that was her weather. Okay.
Morning. My name's Randy Haight. I am a neighbor of Herb's and live just behind here on the end of Kennedy Trail. We are a small neighborhood of 15 lots with a private easement. We live at the end of it, happen to live at the end of it, and we are permanent residents. I've submitted a couple of my opinions. We've had four out of our 15 homes have turned over in this past less than a year, three of which immediately became listed on VRBO. Within a very short time, the home next to me, which was the residence of a family of four, has turned into a small resort. Since Memorial Day, we have counted 40 separate people and 40 separate cars in and out of our next door neighbor. If I represent an example of this growing trend of well over 100 listed lakefronts on VRBO, think about the effects of the lake, the shoreline, the watershed, the roads, the police, the fire, the trash. I believe it could be extremely detrimental not to impose some restrictions on what could happen down the road. That's my opinion. I appreciate your consideration, and I hope that we can find some solution that everyone can live with. My opinion is that short-term leases should at a minimum be limited to a certain amount of people per bedroom or per shoreline. Perhaps we could impose a minimum of 30 days. Perhaps there's some consideration for permanent residence. It can completely disrupt a retiree's life, believe me. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Anybody else in the room? Yes, sir. Has he had a comment already? No. Okay. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Jim Fry. I live on Cheney Point Drive. I want to echo the remarks made by other Cheney Point Drive residents and the extreme proliferation of rentals, short-term rentals in our area. We've been coming up here for 70 years. And never have we seen the number of people, the number of cars, the number of people speeding unnecessarily down Cheney Point, which is basically a one-lane road. The infrastructure for the traffic, it just is not there. People walk, exercise on the road, and it causes significant danger to those people. I strongly urge the board to develop an ordinance that will limit the proliferation of these operations and respect the rights of the residents, the families who are here on a permanent basis. Thank you for your help, and please get something going here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir.
Jim Clark, 133 Kennedy Trail. I came to listen today, but and I think most of what I would have prepared to say has already been said. I would echo the concerns about running commercial businesses in R1 residential neighborhoods. We're a relative newbie. My family has not been coming here for hundreds of years. We bought in 2018, but we bought as a single family residential property where we wanted to vacation with our family and friends. And having a commercial operation next door to us is very concerning. And as Randon has said, and several others, there seems to be a real trend to any house that comes up is now being turned into what I would consider a commercial operation. So your careful consideration of what we do and how you put the genie somewhat back in the bottle would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oops, I have one more in the building and then we'll go to Zoom.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Bouilly. I also live on Cheney Point Drive. Nobody likes to be told what they can or cannot do with their property once you own it and you're paying big taxes to be on the lake or near the lake. At the same token, restrictions need to be in place. Like as many speakers have said, you buy into the place, assuming it's a residential neighborhood, to have essentially a rental business right next to you. Doesn't seem to make any sense, and it totally changes the ambiance of the area, and potentials for problem will be ongoing. So severe. If you're going to allow some sort of short-term rentals, which does seem to be the trend in a lot of nice areas, it needs to be curtailed to a great extent. You know, it's some sort of limitations, and I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of ways to approach that. But I think it really needs to be addressed to curtail the number of weeks, the number of times, the number of houses, particularly for a neighborhood or a street that has them. Because if you're the next door neighbor, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy to see while the company renting them out may do some screening. It's impossible to do the screening to the point to eliminate any problems. You know, maybe a lot of the families will probably be just fine, but I'm sure 1 out of every 2 times or 1 out of every 3 times, you're going to get somebody in there that's going to cause a lot of disruption. And that's not very nice for the person right next door that's also paying one heck of a big amount in property taxes, and then to not to be able to enjoy it for essentially these 2 or 3 months that we actually have nice weather here. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Young lady over here.
Hi, my name is Jill Fry. I am part of the Fry family at 329 Cheney Point Drive. And I just wanted to comment on the point raised by Mr. Dragon that ordinances do currently exist for many of the concerns that people express regarding short-term rentals. And the draw that puts on those that serve our community in the busiest time of the year. During the time of the year that the lake is busy and these rentals are turning over quickly, ordinances might exist for the enforcement of noise violations or parking violations. But this is at the time of the year when those who serve us need to be focused on the safety of the people who are here, not distracted and disturbed by people who don't understand what the ordinances are and are acting in violation of them. So I just wanted to point that out and have that pointed out for the record.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, not seeing any in the room. Thank you all for your comments. For our our Zoom person there, Mr. Janowski, are you on
Yes, I'm on.
for a question?
I mean,
Do you have a question?
yeah, just a concern. The septic fields really bother me. You know, like people said, 40 people or whatever coming in. Um, that's a big problem for you guys. So that'll be it.
You say that was it? I'm sorry, I'm
That's it.
having a
Yeah.
tough time hearing there,
Yeah, I
but,
know. I don't.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
all I
thank you
have.
very much. That's
You're welcome.
Mr. Janowski for the minutes. Okay, very good. Board, Jim, now it's.
You want to
Have
have mid-morning break or you want to?
What's that? We can do that. How much longer do you think you'll be? Probably a while.
This is going to take a
All right.
while.
Let's take a quick 10-minute. We'll resume. We'll resume at 10:15 so we can get a potty break in, I guess. Back into session. If everybody could have a seat. Let the record reflect at about 10:17. We're back in session. 10:16, actually. Thank you very much. We are still on our short-term rental review. Treasurer Anderson, for this is for the board now to weigh in here.
So do you want me to just delve in?
I want you just to dive in, and I'm hoping that at the end of this meeting, we will have some agreement from on the board level as well. Something that might direct me to go with yet another potential or items for consideration and a potential melding of a draft number 2 of the ordinance to be reviewed by legal because we have to have something to have a public hearing on. So that's what my goal is. Now, will we make it? I hope. Floor's yours.
Okay, so to start with, this is the original draft came out of the Plan Commission after they did their due diligence.
Yep.
This is basically pretty close to what Markey Township has already adopted and ran. And
Can't shut the door, folks.
yeah.
That door has to be open. Thank you.
Might want to just tell the people if they're doing. So the Plan Commission did their due diligence, drafted the ordinance, and it could, in theory, have been just rubber stamped by us and moved forward. What's that? Oh, okay. So subsequent to that, the board has gotten a copy of this. I've asked everybody to read the ordinance and give me their concerns. I also took the time to read about 8 or 10 ordinances throughout northern Michigan to glean any other ideas that they may have. And I'm going to preface this too. You know, my knee-jerk reaction to this issue is probably similar to a lot of you out there in that it's R1 property and you're putting a business or allowing a business to operate within it. And I theoretically see an issue with that myself. The problem is enforcing it. And because that's a zoning issue. This ordinance is a policing ordinance, so it's different. And so, as Brian has eloquently put it, this allows you to give it to take it away. Where if you left it to the zoning ordinance, and we try to enforce it, I guess maybe a strict standpoint of say not have this policing ordinance, and we just tried to enforce a zoning ordinance and say we're going to toe the line and just say you can't do it. I'm not sure how enforceable that would be. I've been told that it would be difficult, very expensive, and we'd be playing whack-a-mole throughout the township. So this as it is what we're moving forward with. So what I'm going to do then is you've all got proposed amendments to this draft. I'm not going to read the whole ordinance because we've all been through that. So what I'd like to do is just go through each of the proposal wording changes and we'll discuss it. And then, this will get voted on, I assume, on Tuesday, if we could come to some resolution. But we're going to have to, at this point, at least verbally say we agree or disagree on some of this stuff. So going forward, the section 3 definitions, subsection C, the proposal is to change the term motor courts to motor/cabin courts. And that's only to be consistent with what the wording is later in the ordinance. And I did meet with Tom Barber, who's the chair of the planning commission, because I really wanted his feedback on this, since this did come out of the planning commission. So I think this one came out of the wording that Tom and I had talked about. But anyways, that's just a word change so that we're encompassing both of those. Anybody have a issue with that? Okay. The second one behind that is on section 3, and this is under definitions. It would be O, principal residence exemption, PRE. The property is occupied as a principal residence by the owner with a property granted exemption by the township assessor. So that's all that is a definition of what a PRE is. I assume there's no issues with that.
Nope.
Okay. Section 5, application. Subsection B, required information. The subsection 8 to that is add after deed restrictions, in parentheses, including easements. So in the original wording, under the application, you had to turn in any deed restrictions or use limitations in the subdivision covenants and restrictions or the condominium master deed and or bylaws applicable to the short-term rental premises. This actually, I think, came from us. I think when you came to me, you said something about adding the term including easements after the deed restrictions. Which you could argue that is inferred in that, but it just makes sure that if somebody had some sort of easement that they were operating with, that it had to be listed when it turned in their application to whoever's going to administer this.
So a piece of property with an easement abutting.
Yeah.
That's right.
Or the backlotters that have the dock associations on road ends, right? Is that what you're talking?
No. Yes.
Wondering here on Jane, that sticks out in my mind. They live on the other side of the lake, not the lakeside, but they do have an easement.
Easement, yep.
Next to a piece of property. So I think that should be addressed here as well.
Mm-hmm. Would that refer to the dock associations? Like the road end, like at the end of Arbutus? No, it doesn't. Okay. I misunderstood. Thanks.
Any issues with that wording?
No. As long as it meets legal, obviously.
Well, yeah, when this is all done and said, if we move forward after Tuesday's meeting, this is going to go to the attorney for review. Okay. Required information, I'm adding or proposing adding section 18, which would require the person, it says a copy of the Michigan sales use tax license. And I'll just give you a little background. Anybody that rents property, real property, I don't care if it's your bedroom in your back of your house, if it's rented on a short-term basis, less than 30 days, the state law requires you to collect use tax on that. So these VRBOs and Airbnbs that are operating, most of them, if they're using a platform that's paid for, the platform actually collects the sales tax for them. It forces them. But anybody that rents property on a short-term basis is supposed to collect use tax. So I'm just proposing that we require them to submit the copy of that license to the township as part of their package that they turn in for their review.
Which makes it all legal.
It just shows that they're legitimate.
Okay.
It's if you're going to do it, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. You're not, what this would mean is that if somebody's going to enter into this, that they're a bona fide entity, not doing it halfway. Okay. So I'm waiting for your response.
He's got something.
The only problem that I have, but it's like I told you, it's not a hill I'm going to die on here, but, the state of Michigan has had many, many opportunities to take a bite out of this problem themselves, and they refused, and they shoved it to the local people. It's for a local problem for us to sit in here for long meetings. And so as long as we're going to say you don't have a copy of that, then you're not getting considered for this rental, then I'm okay. But if there's any intent whatsoever on the enforcement of this to go, yeah, we're not going to worry about it. I don't want to see us spending money to get this Michigan state sales tax to the government of Michigan. They had opportunities and they haven't taken it. They shoved it upon us. So if this is in the application process in which you don't have it, you don't give it to us, then you don't get considered. I'm okay. I'll hush. But if it's it's intended to sneak through, then I'm not for enforcing state regulation.
Yeah, my interpretation of what was put in there, and this is in several of them that I saw that I looked at had it. Some of them didn't, and that's probably because from a township or a municipal level, you don't think about, maybe not even knowledgeable the fact that they're supposed to be doing that.
I gotcha.
But I that's exactly the intent is it would be the application process. The idea of saying, I want to see every one of your quarterly returns. No, I don't. I have no, that would be a nightmare to try to manage. And I not even in consideration.
Okay. Then you can move on for me.
Good. Okay. Number 19. This one, I guess, has left some discussion, but a septic and well status report from the Roscommon County Health Department indicating a number of bedrooms the septic system servicing the short-term rental premises was designated to accommodate. If no such report exists, an equivalent report from a qualified inspector acceptable to the township indicating the same. So basically, to get a license, you would have to have some proof that your septic is adequate to the size and use that's going to be proposed for that property.
I am way good with this, other than that last sentence, maybe if no such report exists, an equivalent report from a qualified inspector is acceptable. I think it should just go to the health department needs to have it on file that there is a report that satisfies their requirements, and that's it. The health department is the one that determines whether it's there or not, not somebody sitting here that said, here's a report that came from an inspector. If it came from an inspector and the inspector did his job, turn it into the health department with the appropriate fees, and let the health department weigh in on it and say, yep, it's good. And I say that because I think that's the way it should be, but also because as part of the efforts that we're working on with the health of Higgins Lake is the septic committee will want to find an inspection or an inspection report for every piece of property in the township if we can eventually get there. And if we allow these to just simply stop short of that inspection, I think that's going to be problematic for what we're doing. So,
and this I'll I'll admit this is a plagiarized paragraph. I got this out of another ordinance.
Perfect.
Uh,
So language change to that, to include the Central Michigan Health Department and take out that last sentence, something. Jim, can you get Jim?
I guess my question, because Tom and I met, and I'm gonna throw you under the bus, Tom, but, Tom was concerned about some of the wording too. And I just want to make sure that there in fact is such a report, so we're not asking for something that doesn't exist.
Well, there is a report.
Okay.
There is a report that the health department will approve. There will be, if it's not, yeah, there is. And it's liable to be slightly different when we get a little further down the road, if they accept some of the changes we'd like to see made. But for the most part, yeah, there's a report that they do, that they sign off on. They say, yep, now we've got this information. We agree with the fact that there's a report, and now we will enter it into our database.
And, and keep in mind, this is running in tandem. Health of Higgs Lake is moving along. Planning Commission is on its agenda, and which meets tonight, has septic ordinance as on its agenda, but it's where everybody's kind of looking at each other and waiting. And so the Planning Commission is only going to be able to go so far because it needs some direction from this board and whatever the steering committee comes up with through the Health of Higgins Lake. But I have no problem taking the last sentence off of there if that's acceptable to everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but I still think you could craft a general piece of language for compliance with Central Michigan Health Department in its place. And then this is the reason why I remember, I know you looked at me like, I want a little longer, and I do. And the only reason why I want, like, we can do something Tuesday night that says we're going to agree to continue on and to take forward a draft 2 for legal. I'm good with that. But what I'm not good with is calling it final language or any of that. That has got to be a specific document that comes out that we can have public hearing on. That is
exactly
what indeed we wish to, for our, what I called the first attempt at this. And I talked to a few people on the out in the highway. They're, look, we're not going to get this right the first time. We're going to do our level best. They are amendable. The real question for this board is are we continue doing this? And I think that's what I'm hearing.
Well, and the thing,
I think that's what I'm hearing.
The thing is let's say that an ordinance is passed at some point regarding septics.
Yes.
And we have third-party inspectors.
Yes.
That last paragraph would apply if they were doing the inspection.
We can amend.
Yeah.
That's
those third-party inspectors, though, need to eventually follow through with the health department.
And it would end up that,
yeah.
So I'll take that out. And then do you want that to change from Roscommon County Health Department to Central
Michigan
Health Department is what we're under, CMDHD. Yeah, I don't think it ought to be void of any words, even for a public hearing and a potential look at a first approved ordinance, if you will.
All right.
Yep.
Going on, section 5 for the application, subsection C, issuance or denial, add the words after ordinance or is incomplete, or delete and I think to put this in perspective, let me read it. Currently, it says, if an application complies with the standards and regulations of this ordinance, all right. If an application complies with the standards and regulations of this ordinance, and if there are available licenses, the designated township official shall approve a license allowing short-term rental within 14 calendar days. All short-term rental licenses issued under this ordinance shall be sequentially numbered if the applicant fails to provide the information required by this ordinance, and that's where it would be included, or is incomplete. So if they didn't comply or record, if they didn't turn all the information or they didn't complete the application, then and fails to pay the required fee and or if there are any no available license, then the application shall be denied by the designated township official on that basis.
Yep.
So basically what we're just in here saying is if it's if they don't return all the required information or the application is incomplete.
Right.
And that wording, when we met with Kirsty Russo from Markey when we were after the Plan Commission had done this draft, because this came initially from Markey. That's what they worked off from. And I asked her a couple questions. The last one I asked her, I said, if you could change anything now that you didn't have in the original ordinance, and she said that was one of them, the incomplete part.
The ability to have an input.
Because that was one of her biggest problems with the applications, is they're coming in.
But don't have everything.
Yeah. So is that?
So you could deny based on incompletion.
Yeah. Is that acceptable?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Total number of licenses.
McGill.
D. Under 6, it says current license holders. Well, let me go to, this is an addition to that section. 6, current license holders may renew within 30 days prior to the anniversary date of the original license issuance. If a renewal request is not received by the anniversary date, the request will be considered a new application placed on a hierarchy waiting list accordingly. So it was mute on that before. I think Markey has a policy that they kind of like created, but this seemed to warrant putting it in there. Anniversary date, what they do at Markey is when you get a license, that's your anniversary date. And then you'd have what she said right now is they'll apply 30 days before that date. If we do this, my recommendation is going to be we set a fixed date so that all licenses are renewed on that fixed date, not have them all throughout the year. That's just problematic. So all I'm saying is, or requesting in this is that we put the wording in there that you have 30 days prior to your anniversary to make your application for renewal.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Are you saying keep in the rest that you had suggested on that number 6? You know, if a renewal request is not received by the anniversary date, the request will be considered.
Yeah, if they don't,
I got it. We're keeping it off. Yep.
Yeah, that's on them.
I just wanted to clarify.
Section C or E is let's see, this would be new, principal residence exemption. Properties which have a PRE granted, which we just talked about in the definitions, principal resident exemptions, comma, are owner occupied, which means you're physically there, and utilize 50% or less of their home for short-term rental will not be subject to this ordinance. However, if the property is denied its PRE or is no longer occupied by the owner, it will be subject to the application process and all restrictions of the ordinance immediately. So basically what this would mean is that if you are renting a room in your house or part of your house or part of your property and it's less than 50% and you're there and it's your home, you're not going to this won't apply to you. And so there are some out there talking to Jason. My concern was why I put PRE and owner occupied in there is because I a PRE is granted by the township or for principal residence. But my concern would be is somebody goes out and gets a PRE on a piece of property, even though they're not there, just to get around this ordinance. So you have to be there and you have to have a principal residence exemption. And there's a few out there. I don't think there's very many, but this would just keep the little mom and pops, family type stuff out of this. Does that make sense?
The small guest cottage where you
Yeah.
live there and you've been doing it for a really long time too, but you're on site, you're managing it yourself, that's what you're talking about.
These probably, to
The
my
problem without addressing PRE is we all know there are people that will try and be a principal residence on tax basis and
right
playing vote games and
we don't want somebody going and buying a property for $1 million and making that their PRE and then make it in a short-term rental.
That's right.
So,
seems reasonable.
Yeah, talking to Jason, that the chances of somebody building something to suit this would not work because our current building codes aren't going to allow them.
Wouldn't allow it in.
Yeah. So this would just keep the little mom and pops that are probably not on the VRBO, not on the Airbnb. They're just word of mouth and
They're the regulars.
yeah.
PRE would include the resident's primary house and everything else on that property, right? A guest cottage, I guess.
Well,
So that's
if
included.
you've got a PRE, that's on the whole
Whole
property.
property.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's not very many out there that are, to my knowledge. Okay. Everybody good with that? Okay. Section 6, which is regulations, special events. And currently, the way it's written, under section 6, it says all short-term rentals shall comply with the following requirements and conditions, and failure to abide by any of these requirements or conditions may result in the revocation of the license and may be considered grounds to deny renewal of a license in the future. And currently under B subsection, it says occupants may have visitors provided that the total number of visitors does not exceed the total number of occupants after 11 p.m. So basically, you could have guests at a short-term rental, but by 11 o'clock, everybody has to be out of there except for the people that are staying there. The proposed wording is additional line that say special events, outdoor events, lawn parties, weddings, or similar activities are not allowed on the site for more than a number of permitted occupants. So in that one, it would mean that you could have some guests, but you're not going to have a wedding or a big party or
Small wedding.
yeah, there. I don't know how you feel about that one.
I don't know how to feel about it. How does that sound? So it really, you're not gonna rent so you won't rent the lakefront home for whatever at 2,500 a night, and you won't be allowed, because you were renting it, you wanted to be married on the beach. Everybody's out of there by 11 o'clock. Is that what that means?
No, that right now, if the way it's worded is there's not a limit on people, visitors, other than whatever the normal parking situation would probably be. That's
You're looking to, this legislates out any of those activities on a lakefront home that someone might rent under VRBO.
You could have a special event, but it's only, or a wedding, but it would have to be limited to the number of people that could be normally there. And that is a point of contention with.
Well, that'll be a enforcement nightmare though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, chief, you want to go out there and break up the wedding and give them all a ticket? And I mean, realistically, I'm always looking at things from an enforceability. It's great to say things, but what kind of teeth can you put into this?
If you had something where when they're registering that property that said
Yeah, you know in advance.
This property, able to house this many people, then need to be on registration along with, we have parking spaces for 40. So if you're limited for a car. something along those
And there is wording in here regarding the parking. And
Off street.
I'm only taking what everybody came back to me, plus what I've seen in other regulations. So, I don't know how you would address that because, I'll give you, I'm going to digress a little bit. Earlier on, you were talking about, Mr. Dragon was here talking about, well, call the cops. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's zero nuisance. That's fine. Here's nuisance to the point of calling police out because somebody's violated the law. But there's all of this before it rises to that level of nuisance or annoyance that isn't necessarily something you call police for, which most of you talked about when you were here. It's not that they're necessarily doing something illegal. It's that it's this activity is
Constant
annoying.
commotion.
So I don't know how to address if I go out and I rent a piece of property and it's costing me $1,000 or $2,000 a day or or 10 grand a week, that I'm not going to utilize it to its fullest extent. And how you keep that from, you limit that to it, so not to that annoyance level.
Well, my thought on that, Jim, especially when you're talking about, I call these all hot button issues for, weddings and whatever. And I say to myself, I would want to, if you intend to legislate that out, then on your application process, that better be in bold there so that they understand that clearly when enforcement has to arrive. And then they don't have to sit there and, feel bad doing their job, if you will, while everybody's partying. It's a bride and a groom and it's a life event.
Huge potential problem with going out there and trying to enforce it, and you have a bride that's saying, no, we're not doing it.
Get it ahead of time.
And it's a huge potential problem for us.
Be some good wedding pictures though.
So I guess what I'm saying, Jim, is if as long as, if that's how the board feels, then this has to be very conspicuous on the application.
I totally agree with you. And one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit later here is the good neighbor policy or guidelines. But it would have to be up front. And I guess, what this would do is keep the renting to the use of family, general family use. If I want to go have a wedding, or if I want to throw a party, then I should go rent the barn, or I should go, get a venue somewhere that's commercial. Because really, what we're talking about is residential property that's kind of being quasi used as commercial. How far do you want that to go?
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. So
I say go ahead and leave it in as you have proposed. We've got to go through public hearings yet anyway.
Exactly.
And let's just, there's so much to lavage out or lavage in. Yeah, that's what he's got.
Yeah.
But it's just got just make sure it's up front. That's all.
Yeah,
I get so tired of people with my police career 42. I didn't know about that.
But if you were searching on VRBO or whatever it is you're doing to say, okay, well, we're going to plan a wedding, and you look at it and it says right up front, not allowed. Well, then you go pick a different one.
We had a family wedding that had a dozen people at it, and I could do that probably at someplace I wanted to rent here. Most people don't want to do that. I think it's good language myself.
Yeah, I said leave it in and let's just see if it lavages out itself or it doesn't. That's all.
Okay. Regulations, item D is a new one, and that is that storage and disposal of refuse and recycling shall meet the following, and then that would be Number one, each residential should have a container for refuse disposal and a second container for recycling through the township's refuse contract. Due to a short-term rental being considered commercial in nature, any additional refuse collection needs to be the responsibility of the property owner to contract disposal from a waste hauler. Two, all refuse shall be stored in a container with a tight-fitting lid approved by the waste hauler. Three, refuse containers shall be placed in front of the premise for pickup only on the day designated by the waste hauler. So like if you're on a Monday, that would be Monday. You don't leave it out there all week. So that's those three.
You got to legislate common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What piece of legislation
Yeah.
couldn't have common sense?
And this would also probably be included in the good neighbor
section
wording. Any issues with that?
One second, refuse containers shall be placed.
I'm good.
Was there a conflict between commercial in nature and additional refuse collection needs to be responsibility of the property owner to contract disposal from a waste hauler? And then it says refuse containers shall be placed in front of the premises for pickup only on the day designated by the waste hauler. For private pickup?
Well, GFL does
So they pick
commercial
up their
or the
own-
township, but if you're going to use another one, you might have to second day if they're coming to pick it up.
We're lucky here because the township does negotiation, the big GFL contract that we have and all the rest of that. And in most places, it's the personal responsibility to contact those owners to contact with a variety of different waste managements. And the way I interpret that was, look, if you need a 5-yard dumpster or you need more containers, that's on you. And you need to make that arrangement with a contract with a hauler.
Okay.
What I'm trying to avoid is
Yeah.
having the garbage containers out all the time out front. Because, everybody loves those GFLs or so. Man.
People that come up for the weekend. I know it. Anyway, as they eat on Sunday, with their trash out, and it stays there all week. So I'm always.
Yeah, this is going to avoid that.
Yeah, this theoretically could avoid it.
Oh, yeah, theoretically, yeah.
At SDR.
Does anybody have any
theory? No, I have no problem.
Any issues? Okay.
No issues.
No,
Move on.
good.
Okay.
Move on.
All right. Next section beyond D was proposed as signage advertising the existence of short-term rental is prohibited. So no signs out.
Agreed.
Okay. Any issues?
Nope.
G, for short-term rental homes on waterfront property, owners shall offer a well-maintained dock or hoist when allowing renters to bring or rent watercraft. Short-term renters using watercraft must comply with all requirements imposed by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, State of Michigan. Now,
natural resources is probably the wrong language. It's DEQ now.
DEQ.
I know you did pirate the initial language.
It was,
yes.
I guess the background on this.
Yeah, Eagle. Thanks. That's my third or fourth reiteration now, like yours have. Eagle. That's it. Thank you.
The
Lakes and Energy. Yeah. Wait until the next governor changes.
Yeah, I get it. And this wording I actually got from another ordinance. My understanding is, or my lack of understanding, this township doesn't have any control over the waterfront.
We do not.
So that is the only entities that control that.
Right.
And so possibly in the good neighbor guidelines, we could put some wording about being decent to your neighbors about how many. I think somebody sent me a message this week about how many were out front. And I mean,
docks, the general language for Eagle or all the other reiterations of it is it's defined by as long as it's not a navigation hazard. And when I've asked the question, well, what exactly does that mean? And I don't know, hit a dock and we'll figure it out when it comes to court. So They don't give you guidance to length, widths, that kind of thing. When we were dealing with the road ends, Jim. So you got to stick to a basic. And we all know that, because it happened on our lake with, I think it was Sunseekers or whatever there when the backlot folks, some backlot folks got together, and then of course Eagle, I think might have been DEQ at the time, named told them they couldn't have that dock and all those pontoons and everything they had on it. So we don't have a seat at that table.
So
I'm good with it.
good. I'll change the DNR to Eagle. That's what I grew up with, DNR. Next one, add addition, is section H, separation distance. No short-term rental premises shall be located closer than 1,000 feet to another short-term rental premise licensed pursuant to this ordinance or any lawful non-conforming motor court, cabin court, or slash court, cabin court, with the minimum distance measured from the closest points of the respective property lines. So in other words, you can't have a bunch of them combined neighbor, take over a neighborhood. It's got to be at least 1,000 feet apart to even be considered for an additional license.
So a policy then, in addition to this, would start to figure out how you would determine where that is and the actual mechanics of that.
First come, first served.
Yeah. Well,
Does everybody's application land on the same day? So
this is where, the way I see it, now, of course, this is just the world according to Jim Anderson, but we got to get an ordinance done. And the secondary part is how you administer it, and then the complementary policies that would come into the play in here. Because this ordinance talks about anniversary dates and so on, but it doesn't talk about how much the fee is. It doesn't talk about what that anniversary date is. I suspect when we get to the point of implementing this, there's going to be non-conforming properties that were already there before, even the zoning was put for residential, which how do you address those that have been there, quasi resorts that have been here for a long time? Do they apply to this or not? And if I assume there would have to be some potential variances that may have to be considered for something that's been there for so many years. I don't know the answer to that. That's where Scott, our attorney, will probably
those are legal questions
to guide us. But I guess the question is, do you want to consider a distance between them to keep them from being too
got to start somewhere.
1,000, again, this is, I did change the wording because Tom and I met and we were trying to figure out because the wording I had to do with, it said according to equalization. Well, I tried to find a definition of that because it sounded like the 1,000 feet would come from the point where your mail gets delivered, to the front door. So I didn't want to, it made it more clear. I went and met with Jason and basically decided let's go with 1,000 feet from property line, because you can pull up the GIS mapping and you could
measure it,
string that pretty easily. Yeah. So what's the thoughts on that?
Today's whack at it. It's a good whack.
Leave it?
Philosophically,
At this
belongs in
point,
there, so I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm willing to hear arguments, obviously, from public and whatever. Yeah, not anything. But
Start somewhere.
All right. Section 8, required postings, in subsection E, as it reads right now, it says notification that an occupant or visitor may be cited or fined by the township, comma, in addition to any other remedies available by law, comma, for violating any provision of this ordinance. What I'm suggesting is at the end of the sentence, add a comma, any township ordinance or state law. So in other words, it wouldn't be just this ordinance, it'd be any township ordinance or state law. And I think that came from Muzz when we
That's wise.
He did a great, he was the first one in to give me his thoughts, and there was a lot of little.
That's because the court plate's dumped on him.
Yeah, he's gonna be the guy showing up, but so, does anybody have any issue with that?
Nope.
Okay. F, as it's worded right now, it says, in addition, the owner or local agent must mail or deliver a copy of this ordinance, the street address, the maximum occupancy of the dwelling, the name and the 24-hour telephone numbers of the owner and the local agent to all immediate neighbors of the dwelling. So what I'm suggesting is that the wording be changed to, in addition, the owner or local agent must have proof of mail or delivery of a copy of this ordinance, and then basically all the same as what I just read. And then at the end, adding this includes a certificate of mailing or other proof of delivery. When I met with Kirsty and, and yourself, and I asked her that question about if you could change anything. Her biggest problem they've had over at Markey is that somebody will call their office and say they're the neighbor complaining, and she say, well, don't you have the phone number of the owner? And they're like, I didn't even know there was a VRBO there until I had a problem.
Common problem.
And so she said she would wish that she had forced them to prove that they had given copies of this to the neighbors. So that's all I'm asking is here's proof. Good?
That's good.
Okay. G is in addition to the required postings. It reads, a copy of the good neighbor guidelines established by the township shall be provided to all occupants for review and shall remain on premises. The owner is responsible for notifying occupants of the designated parking spaces, quiet hours, trash disposal, pet regulations, fire regulations, and campfire regulations. Those would be included in that guideline, but basically, somebody mentioned up here about people coming and they don't know the rules. If they're renting, the owner's going to be required to provide them that information. So when we talk about the policies after this ordinance, assuming it gets passed, we'll also have to develop the guidelines, which we work with the police department to get all the ordinance that are pertinent and make sure they're in there.
Yep.
I did bring,
Packet.
and I'm going to just pass this around as you can look at it. This is the one this is from East Bay Charter Township. That's one of their guidelines.
The brochure, good neighbor brochure.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd probably have to create something similar to that.
That's simple.
Any issues with this?
Nope.
Okay. Section 9, safety requirements. Subsection B talks about street numbers on the short-term rentals should be affixed to the dwelling, and it says a minimum of 4 inches. The township already has a rule. It has to be 5 inches. So I'm just changing this again. This comes from us to change those to from 4 inches to 5 inches, and then also change on both sides of the mailbox if available to post it at the road via mailbox or signpost. So in other words, if you don't have a mailbox out there, you're going to put a signpost out and have those numbers out front if you can't see them from the road.
Well, they have to comply with ordinance 26.
All this is really doing is putting it to the same.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay. That's it on the proposed changes.
Now discussion.
But I also,
that was language cleanup. Now comes the guts here.
Yeah. So does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up in regards to the ordinance?
Are you going to talk about policy next?
Well, you'll have to wait till public. Yeah.
I had a question about policy, but are you getting there?
That's where I'm heading right now.
David.
On your, the paper that we're going off of.
Yeah.
There was no E before the F, signage, advertising in existence. Is that just a goof up?
Well, these are just what I want to add to this ordinance over here. So
Right.
this is not complete. This is just excerpts that we would want to.
Excerpts to correlate.
Okay.
Good.
Continue.
All right. So
I prefer we get through our discussion and then I will. There's out at the end of the meeting, there's also public comment.
So, um, these are just general issues that we've got to discuss that's going to tie into this. Either it's going to be by policy or whatever. So I could put some together. They're not in any particular order, but, one of the discussions we had to come up with is, if we're gonna do this, we are gonna put a number of licenses. And, so Mary Ellis, who was my deputy, has been tasked, when she's not collecting taxes, to research VRBOs and Airbnbs online and try to determine how many we've got in our township. As of, well, this says 84, but we're actually up to about 100 right now, that we've identified. But that is, my guess is there's probably 30 to maybe even 50 more that we're unaware of because they could be not on any platform that we're seeing, or they're just word of mouth. So I passed on to everybody that MSU seminar that was online.
Very good one.
Yeah, it was very informative. And they talked about, per their study, that you need a criteria for picking the number if you're going to put the ordinance and enforce it. They had talked about 2.5% as a number for target of the total residential properties, approved properties. I saw that same 2.5% used over in Grand Traverse, one of the townships over there. Right now, we have in Gerrish, we have 3,353 improved properties within the township that would potentially qualify as a short-term rental or could be used. If you use that 2.5% of that, you're a little bit less. But if you use 3%, you're out to that 100 I talked about. And like I said, at the time I wrote this, which was a couple of weeks ago, I said there's probably 25 to 30 more. One of the things that we're going to be tasked with is coming up with a max. I assume we're going to want a max on these things. And so I'm not saying we have to make that decision today, but it's something we need to consider. If you use 3% of that 3,353, you're about 100 is where you're looking at. And I suspect there's half again more of those out there. So that would mean that if we pass this and set that policy, I will look at it like the gold rush coming in to get their licenses, and then there's going to be 40 or 50 out there that are not. And then the question would be, how are we going to be able to legally limit them based on that? And that's going to be a question for Scott that we need to make sure.
Well, in the police powers ordinance, there is no grandfathering consideration.
Well, I get it. But
like changing the speed limit out on the highway. You don't ask permission.
There will be, I think, and again, this is the world according to Jim, but you've got non-conforming properties that were out there in the R1 already that have been operating as a resort.
Yep.
I don't see this. You can attempt to limit, but I cannot see shutting somebody down that's been running for years under that.
No, I understand, but that goes to your bullet point 4 down here is, do we need to amend the zoning ordinance to go along with the police ordinance? That is your legal question, because there's 2 ways to do this. And one is the police powers and the other is literally the zoning ordinance. And you hear people out here describe R1 and it's commercial in R1. When you do a zoning enforcement off our zoning, it's 3 letters, a prayer and whatever, and hopefully somebody complies, and then it's a civil lawsuit in which we then have to engage our township attorney in filing a suit for the nuisance or the abatement. My fear is and this is legal, I don't know, but the police power ordinance stands obviously on its own, and it does negate any of the claims of grandfathering in the past. I think if you put it one inside the other or refer, that might bring us a legal issue, but that's a legal question for our attorney and one we can ask. I clearly heard in our attorney's office that there is no grandfathering issue because I specifically asked it. And when we initially started talking about that, Tom, I know Barbara, you were present with that as well. So that one has to be decided by legal, not by us.
So I'm not asking today that we decide that, but it's going to have to be a decision and policy at some point.
One other,
one
other way to do that would be to accept some higher number to get started, except I'll just make up a number, 150. You accept those applications, and then through attrition, you work your way back down to a number that you're going to be comfortable with as people no longer do it right or decide they don't want to do it anymore, or they've just changed their mind or whatever. Then you get down to the number that we like
accordingly.
I'm sorry.
And then amend accordingly after that.
Well, the policy would amend. Well, the policy would start out saying you'd amend accordingly. You get down to 75. And once you're there, you decide if we're still at the right number or not. And then, but once again, for the policy discussion later on.
Okay.
License terms and applications. Markey uses $100 application fee with a $500 annual fee with renewals at the anniversary date of the license. I'm thinking that a fixed renewal date used with a 30-day window in advance for renewal. This will keep things uniform and less likely to have errors due to varying renewal dates, because I just see that as problematic.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's me, but I don't see us using anything less than Markey is charged. You, money? Well, Markey's is 100 application fee at $500.
Well, you need to turn your mic on too, by the way. So, yeah, it's an arbitrary number to a certain extent, but I guess that's a discussion to be had.
Well,
I didn't
just want to make sure that we are covering all that it's going to cost us to do this also.
I didn't hear what you said for a number. Did you say?
And I think it needs to be higher.
Okay.
On the income side of it. I mean,
I just, like I say.
Or do we get experience and then we have a caveat that said that fees are from time to time.
Well, yes,
are adjusted by township board.
Yes.
Township board.
I could tell you how I feel about it. And again, this is world according to Jim. If I have to approve spending township money that comes out of our fund balance, in other words, we're not getting anything coming in, we're just spending it, I'd fight to not allow any of them if I'm going to lose money.
Right.
So if we're going to do a police ordinance, we need to make sure we're taking in enough money to cover the legal cost and the administration cost of these things.
Absolutely.
So you're right in that respect. I don't want to gouge anybody, but
No.
I don't want to be in the hole.
Right.
Now, Markey has 50. Their number's 50.
40. That was 40.
No, it's 50. I'm pretty sure.
Short-term rentals, that's what.
$25,000 a year. That's 50. Isn't it?
Okay, well, maybe it is. Yeah, it's 50.
So it
I'm
must
pretty
be
sure it's
45,
50.
Yeah. That's
So-
what they charge.
So they're only taking in $25,000 a year is what but I don't know, my guess is looking at the properties that they have not as high price properties as we have on the lake. So if somebody's got $1 million property and their chances are that they're probably more willing to take us to task for $500 than somebody that's got $100,000 piece of property. And I expect that we probably will have some legal costs involved in this as we go. And so I
Any
guess,
ordinance you start out with, you do. We've been through them all.
Yeah.
well, I do want to make sure whatever we do, we're doing it as correct as possible without, so there's not a chink in our armor.
Yep, there's much, right?
Okay, going on to the next.
Be thinking about fees.
Next question would be, and this would be probably be an ordinance amendment or change we need to talk about has been brought up is, do you put limitations on the number of weeks or months that they can be operated under?
I think it's one more way to control. Mary Jo and I were talking about the fact that most places are at least doing a week stay. If you don't, then the turnaround that you have of people in and out, it's a whole different animal. I also think it would deter people from purchasing properties to do just that, which make it a rental income. I don't know how many weeks or how many months, you know what I mean? I don't know what that answer is, but I think there should be some sort of a limit. I don't think they should be able to year round. That's just my opinion.
No 3-day rental, no one.
Well, you know what? If you're living next door.
30 days only.
No,
You-
no, I'm just saying that. I'm saying that it shouldn't. Then it becomes a business. That's all that's.
We've crossed that. We've already crossed that bridge. If you're going to go forward with it, you just did that. We've done that. Here's how I look at it: is if we're going to limit the number of these in total, then I mean, if we weren't going to limit the number, and we could then just say, hey, well, anybody wants to do it, fine. It's 2 weeks out of the year, and that's it, and put it in the zoning and be done with it. But then we're going to have to force it with no revenue coming in to deal with it. If you're going to allow 100 of these or whatever they are, I don't see, if we're going to put all these restrictions on here, that you could just say, well, you could only do it 2 weeks out of the year. That's you kind of got to approach it one way or the other. If you're going to acknowledge that there are going to be these business type things going on, but you're going to limit it to only a certain number of them, then and with all the restrictions we're putting in there,
You're right. It's the.
I can't see taking $500 fee and saying you can only rent it for 2 weeks out of the year. I think that
No,
you could put in
was
there,
the
like,
same.
limit it to, you can't do less than a week
Mhm.
per rent, contract, or less than so many days or something like that. Or
What do you see in your neighborhood? Cheney Point. Muzz?
I mean, I know talking to some people that have short-term rentals, they won't rent it for less than 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
They themselves, the owners, won't
Right.
rent for
That's
less
pretty
than.
standard.
They won't.
Right.
Depends on the season. The summer season, depends on the season, the summer season, we're seeing that there are more, weekly rentals, but then in the off season, when it's not quite so, active up here, the VRBOs are settling for Thursday, Friday through Monday, or just a weekend with a minimum of 2 nights stay.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, that's a thought process.
It is.
But if we're gonna do that limitation, I suspect that Scott's gonna want us to address that in the ordinance.
I believe he's gonna want that, and I also believe he's gonna want if you use a calculation of 2.5 or 3%, he'll want that empirical data. Those are proofs.
But
And then you can put it in the policy too.
that would be in the policy, not the ordinance.
Well, in the ordinance, he's gonna want that in there because those are proofs.
You could put the methodology or something, but I don't think you can put, I don't think it'd be, to our benefit to put a dollar or a specific, count in the ordinance.
Keep that in mind, because you and I are gonna visit him anyway.
I got it.
And,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. You got a question on that. We're not quite done with it yet, but
Not in not in this community, but other communities, they have a per property, you're allowed per year to rent it out 1 month, 2 months, doesn't have to be to the same person, but for the whole year, which would stop people purchasing
To make it, yeah.
properties to just.
is that a cumulative
Yes.
statement?
Yeah.
You can't rent out any more than 4 months cumulatively in a
Yeah.
calendar year.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think,
I'm not understanding.
Mm-hmm. They have areas where their communities like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's regular people that live
Sure.
in there, and if you purchase a house, it's a pretty short period of time. It's only 1 month or 2 months out of the year that you are allowed to rent it as a VVRO.
but that's usually the HOA that's
Yeah.
telling you that,
Right.
not the township.
The city ordinance in where we
It's
live.
actually easier.
Okay, I mean, that's another thought.
Well, this gets me back to, okay, if you're gonna say, we're gonna just, anybody can do this, and you're just gonna limit to so many weeks out of the year, then to me, you're not addressing it as a policing ordinance. What you're looking at is a zoning ordinance. And then, we don't need to do all this. We just change the zoning to argue that point, because why would
Never
you
get anything done.
Why would you put everybody through this licensing fee and this administration
Mhm.
for people to and limit to 100 and then say you can only have it for a month? I mean, that is counter.
So they're not doing it year round.
I
This is-
get that, but then we shouldn't be approaching it this way. If we're going to address it, in my mind, if we're going to address this as a limitation, number of weeks a year or month, then we shouldn't be going through this. We should just treat it like it's the PREs, that people that are only using their if they're only doing that for 30 days out of the year or whatever we say, then it just seems like we shouldn't be approaching this from this policing ordinance. We should just be putting that in some sort of enforceable zoning that.
There is no enforceable zoning.
Well, that's what I'm
Spending
saying.
zillions of dollars, 3 letters and an apology, if you will, before you can even get someplace.
Seems like.
Is my point.
This background, all the stuff that you got in this ordinance is all good stuff to control these.
Hey, I agree, but if I was
Yeah, I hear you. $500 for a month's worth of rent.
we're acknowledging that by doing this, that we're acknowledging that there's going to be commercial type property in these residents. And I just think that limiting it in the form of 1 month out of the year is probably unreasonable, considering all this other stuff. Now, I might be washed up, but to me, I'd rather, if we're going to approach that, I'd rather just say, make that rule and skip all the rest of the stuff. And hopefully they'll keep these people from, because if you're only doing it for, that you're talking about, then there's maybe 3 or 4 rentals a year, right? If it's a month.
I hear you. Yeah.
So I don't know.
More discussion.
It is, yeah. But that is something
Okay.
that got to be considered.
Did that take us to the end of you?
I've still got two other things in
Okay.
here that you don't have on yours.
Okay, I don't have
Do we
it?
need to amend the zoning ordinance to go along with the police
That's
ordinance?
a legal question.
That is a legal question. The Marquis did do that. Jason doesn't seem to think we do, and the Planning Commission didn't really talk about that, so
Yep.
I don't know. Attorney to address the wording for civil penalties. I intentionally did not address anything to do with the penalties in here. I think that our attorney should be the one that drafts that wording.
If you go to a police powers ordinance, the law for municipal civil infractions, it does tell you what you can and can't do.
And
So the attorney will have to give us that.
I think that's why
It
I left
prevents
you.
people from saying, I'm going to write you a municipal civil infraction and it's $4,000 and paid at the treasurer's office. There's a statute for that. So that's illegal and Scott can do that for
Right.
us.
So that,
And you're going to be surprised at just how little amount of money it is.
okay, so I guess that's it for me.
That is illegal. Yep.
One quick one, Jim. Do you need a last paragraph in there that references the policy piece that's encompassed in the ordinance? The ordinance then has a paragraph that says there is a policy that deals with these other issues.
Well, I think every time it comes to one of those points, and this was from Marquis and what the Plan Commission had already gone through this, is that it says to be addressed by the board. I don't
Okay.
remember the exact word, but it does
Okay.
talk about that in here on some of these. The board can set the number of.
Okay.
Right here, it says, once the total number of short-term licenses issued by the ordinance reaches a maximum limit established by the township
That's
board,
generality. Yep.
the township will not accept.
That's in for that.
That's
piece.
already, that's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
So
For that issue. But what about the other issues that we were just talking about, the other policy issues that come up? That's fine. That's as long as you've got it covered in the body of the
Yeah.
ordinance itself, each time it's referred to a policy, great, other than a paragraph that said there is a policy that deals with, that's attached to this, that deals with.
there's
From
a,
time to time, the board may increase or decrease short-term rentals. That's catch-all language that you usually find inside of those things.
Yeah.
because there's going to be little nuances that we're going to be addressing through policy. And that's,
Yeah. Which is
and I
exactly what I'm saying.
meet with Kirsty, that's kind of what we got
Yep.
out of theirs.
All right.
Yep.
Have you reached it?
Okay, I'm done.
That was quick.
There was a comment that wanted to be made some time ago. Did you remember it? This is the comment part for what's on the agenda, which was the short-term rental right now. You're not taking up your end comment if you'd like to, so, okay.
Someone purchased a property and they are going to use it as a full-time VVRO rental type place. Are they allowed to take another building on their property and add bedrooms to that?
That's a separate question. I emailed that off already. Yeah, that is going to be a building and zoning question for what's there now. And do we have legal right to tell you that you can't do that?
Because that already live down the street that have wanted to put living space in their garage up above. They weren't allowed to do that.
I'll check right after the meeting with Jason and see what he's got going on that piece. Jim, this is that piece that the people that come in and talk to you about.
But my understanding is that's not a bedroom, that's a TV room. That's what I've been told.
Call it what you want.
For record? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Get a lot of those, I imagine.
I'm sorry.
And people are coding as to that type of building. That this down.
Those are all building and zoning question or building questions specifically. I can't answer them. I'm not a building inspector, or that's an interest. So you're saying that that should be considered.
That, and I talked to Jason about that because of the exception I was wanting to put in here, and that,
Mhm.
according to him, that's not likely to happen because the codes will stop them from putting, additional residents on those lots.
Great 5 feet above the ground, they're insulating it, it looks like a garage, but I don't. Why do you insulate the garage?
That'd be a good question for Jason.
Yeah.
Mike's up there.
Mike,
I respond to that, the zoning board of appeals, as well as the planning commission, and it's Mike Briggs. And there is, in R1, you're allowed to have one residential unit. There are places, myself included, that have grandfathered in where you have two residences on a one zone for one resident. There is a total number of limits. I don't know what the thing is for accessory buildings. That includes garages, sheds, even like little lifting overhang. There's a limit on that. And as the ordinance exists right now, you are not allowed to have living space in an accessory structure, whether it's a garage or a porch. And some people may be doing that, they're doing that in violation of what the code says.
thank you.
This is happening in our neighborhood. Is there
Yeah,
recourse?
that I can't answer because that's an enforcement thing,
And it is the intent of these structures to house more people and to be used as a short-term rental.
Gotcha.
some people build the garages, but they can't build the garage for that accessory structure. With the plans in there to have it as a living space. Well, what you're seeing in reality is the people who build that stuff, they get it done, they get inspected. And then they go away and then they build the stuff on the side without any authorization or any, thing there, and that's not mine. That's however the zoning building.
It comes from Jason, then goes to the legal, our legal.
Obviously, but there are no garage doors. They covered, they covered it all up. They covered it all up, so. It's not a garage.
Man cave.
I know, I think I know the property you're talking about. Jason's wrote a letter and the assurance is that that's not living space. It's a movie type theater type setup. That's.
Theater, family room.
Yeah.
Definitions.
Well, I know he's dealing with it. Whatever.
Definitions. That's where it boils down to.
Perception.
Like we said, 3 letters and an apology.
Well, I'll tell you what, yes, his avenues are writing letters and then eventually, and that's my sarcasm of an apology. But then if it's not accomplished in that fashion, then Jason has the authority to go and consult our legal counsel. And if indeed they aren't doing what they're supposed to and it fits within, then the township can file a suit in those. I've sat in with him numerous times throughout the times they're trying to foster this through. And obviously, we want to try and get a resolution to it before you get the attorneys involved and all the money involved, obviously, because they're the only real winners in the game. So yes, he has that authority, and that is a case file he would handle. Okay. Moving right along. We are no more comment on any of that, folks.
Available. Give me my note and like his website. The one that you used.
Yeah. Well, ours isn't exactly the same as theirs, but that's the draft we started with. That's what we're working off from. The planning commission went through all this, did their due diligence. I think Tom, what was it, January or something like that, when they were wrapping up on the, proposed language to give to the township board. And then it's kind of got stagnant for a few months and now we're trying to operate with it, but you could get a copy but it's not, I've got to caution, that's not the document it's a draft.
And remind you, stop pushing.
All right.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
gonna move, for the speed, or for time's sake here too, we've got some other issues that are probably gonna have a conversation. So, number 10, cemetery, and, Jim we've been putting this off because all the rest of this stuff kind of eats up all our time. We do have a new section. There needs to be the rollout discussion, the data, layout, pricing of lots moving forward. Jim, you put together a nice couple page summation and documents here. And you want to?
Yeah, I'll try to be very brief.
It deserves
I
attention.
want to keep putting this cemetery piece of it off, but it's not burning like some of the other issues that are out here. So I would suggest that we table the ordinance portion of the
Yes.
the cemetery ordinance until, for one thing, I can get to one of these seminars and get up to speed on some of the laws are. I know the staff here has gone to a seminar and apparently it was a very good one. I just need to get a little more up to speed with it so I can, be a little more educated on it. But we can talk about, I think we can talk about philosophically the expansion of the cemetery and some of the things that, if we're all on the same page about what the cemetery will look like down the road. I would, for one, recommend that the recently surveyed lots, and that's on the drawing I showed you there, the yellow lots are the most recent lots that have been surveyed, and none of those lots have been sold. I don't see any reason why they're not up for sale. I don't know why we can't move forward with it, but that's for discussion here. And if so, then we can make those available to the people. And the next question would probably be the rest of this, the dotted lots that are on there, the expansion. Philosophically, then that's the way we want to develop out the rest of the cemetery here. We've been 40 years selling off the rose-colored pieces there, and they represent about a third of the overall lots that are available in there. So that's good for another 40 years that would provide us with. And over that 40 years, we also have to start talking about how we're going to maintain that property without taking out of the general fund every day in order to do it. So that would be a part of the ordinance piece of it. Just as a sort of the numbers piece of it, there's 320 existing lots that have or 1,280 plots, cemetery plots that have been identified so far in 320 blocks. The new addition, I'm just trying to give people, as they're trying to watch how the numbering goes, the new addition, the yellow addition would start at block number 1,000. The numbering would start over so we can know what was sold in the original piece and then what's we got going forward. That's another 86 blocks. That's 340 plots. Past that, though, there's a lot of them. There's 1,500 that are available down the road. And I think I remember yesterday it represents about 40% of the overall proposed capacity is what we've got surveyed at this point. So lots of expansion available. I think it's a good use of the property. The majority of all the new expansion area is all wooded. And when the time comes, long before the time comes to start making those available, we'd have to start figuring out how to get that property cleared off, and probably would adjust some of this to keep more wooded areas in there, we'd have an opportunity to turn that into a, instead of a kind of an open, I mean, it's not so open now. We got trees that are coming up and growing and
Yeah.
it's starting to get wooded out. So somebody, not me, down the road will
Right.
deal with this when the time comes.
Right.
The cremain lots, location and number of cremain lots can be discussed and agreed upon. Right now, there are, maybe I didn't print it here. There's the gray blocks near the chapel, and then in that wooded area would be established as cremain lots. And we'd have some verbiage in the ordinance that talks about how those cremain lots are set up 4x4 with the 4-foot walkway between each of them and the kind of the dimensions of it that would even that's how it's drawn here, but they would be detailed out in the ordinance piece of it. The procedures for dealing with cremain lots are one thing that I understand there's a lot of different ideas about what you can do with cremains. You can have a scatter area. You can, bury them on individual sites. They can go in the in the chapel. Once again, that's all detailed out in the ordinance piece of it. Maintenance line, we put a maintenance line item in specifically or not?
There's always been one
Okay.
in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's one there.
Just because a question came up about right now, the newly expanded area is kind of void of any landscaping, any trees planted in there. I just roughed in if you kept in mind about $600 a tree to get them planted in there and budget that number for someplace down the road to maybe even over a couple of years, get a few of those trees planted in and let them get growing and catch up with the ones that are there. The ones that have gone in have done real well. The maple trees in there, especially. I was talking to Tony this morning about, man, some of the pine trees that are in there really do create a lot of problems. Maples are not nearly so bad.
Yeah.
And they look better. They have a lot. Yeah, they don't have a winter look as well as maybe the pine trees do, but overall they're pretty good. So,
Well, Jen, what I'm hearing for Tuesday night is that we should have a motion to recommend or motion to authorize all recently surveyed lots to be officially for sale immediately, or what's your verbiage?
I think we have some other things we need to discuss in terms of like, to coincide with, we were looking at fees again, making some changes on that, and I would like to see it done all at the same time, possibly.
So you don't want anything Tuesday?
I don't think no action yet.
You guys are after that?
yeah, I mean, the staff knows better here about what that is than I do at this point. So,
Well, that's on the list, obviously.
yeah, it's
That's
in the
part
ordinance.
of
The
it.
fees are in the ordinance. We've
They
been
are.
reviewed and we
So-
could make them available now at the current ordinance
Okay.
or
We could, and yeah,
is it a problem? Are people haven't?
I just don't want it for an appearance sake. I don't want us to open it up and then change prices because we're already looking at making some changes again.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing is next month at the work session,
Yes.
we will bring this back up again. And you'll come with
Yeah.
something regarding pricing
Yes,
pieces? Fair enough?
yes.
Okay.
You guys okay with that? I mean, I know that some of the proposals the surveys have been done, if you will. So I don't think it'd be much to try and come to some kind of an agreement of what they might look like. For that,
Then I have to talk. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, sometimes too many hands in the pot aren't good either, so we need to make some decisions,
Wow.
going.
See, I don't like to keep
Well,
putting this off, but like I said, it's not pressing like some of
right,
the other
it's
stuff
not.
we're
I
dealing
agree
with.
with
So
you
it's,
100%.
Hmm.
Agree with you.
that's it on the cemetery
Okay.
piece then, I guess.
Very good. Any other board comments on that?
Nope.
All right, the next one, the staff at the hall has wanted to contribute here. And they did some work and you all should have got that little packet, if you will, there for the current hall rental applications. The last time the form was revised and the hall rental application was in 2019. And I don't know whether in that time they did any raising of any of those fees or otherwise, but we have we have people renting our hall for $25. Meaning if you look at, let's see, nonprofits, governmentals, clubs, funeral use for a plot owner, 25. I don't know that I've ever witnessed one of those, but so they submitted to me anyways, and I got it out here, a new hall rental application. And of course, it also puts in doors to be unlocked because we have a security system now. And then, of course, the hall rental potential increases as they see them. So I promised that I would bring it to the board, and just interested in anybody's comments about that whole piece. They also spent time and got Beaver Creek, Denton, you name it. Beaver Creek, I should say that. Beaver Creek, Denton, Gerrish, and Lyon. And so what's your pleasure for this?
So these proposed fees are consistent with the surrounding townships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, it looks like you're
Anything
doubling whatever we currently have.
What's that?
You're doubling what we currently have.
Yeah, well, and I have no idea when they were last changed, so I can't speak to how much.
Well, even doubling, the prices are reasonable for.
More than
for home
reasonable, and lower than some around us, actually, to be frank with you.
Yeah.
And of course, you've added, audio visual and things like that to your rentals as well.
So are you looking for Tuesday, making a motion? Is that?
I don't, whatever the board wishes, I promise to bring it to you folks. And so it's up to you if you want to move this on Tuesday, fine. If you want to wait another month and digest some more, what's your thoughts?
Well, I don't get the, when she puts it at the highlighted yellow hall room rates. So 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. How do we get to use the room, our committees and our board and everything?
We schedule it on a calendar.
Those are actually townships.
Okay. What's 8 a.m.
No,
to 10
No, that's the available time that's available.
If you're a resident and you want to rent the hall, that is the time period, and it's the same for non-residents. The residents get a rental fee in the proposal, $150 with a $150 security deposit. Currently, it's $75, I think.
My question is, the way this states, unless it clarifies it later on, it looks like they have it for all day. I don't understand that. If it's during the weekday, I mean, if it's a weekend, who cares? You know what I'm saying? We have meetings in this room. I don't, is it confusing to anybody else or is it just me?
It's not confusing to me. It says that it would be available to rent anytime between 8 and 4 is usually what we see. And we see a lot of it recently. I know Core comes in and they're here all day. I know the Department of Natural Resources has used it before. In here as well for
So if it's like a buddy and they decide.
Yeah, birthday parties.
Start decorating and do other stuff, because they don't want, you know.
Yeah, currently what we usually see coming through, Mary Jo, is somebody wants to have a birthday party and they're only gonna do it for 4 hours out of the day. They need a building open an hour ahead of time and then to that end of the 4-hour piece. We rarely see anybody using it for 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Rare.
Lead them.
Be very rare. And I think when they wrote this 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., whoever the writers of the documents were, and I think it carried over anyways, they assume that people know that. Maybe it needs to be delineated some more. I don't know.
Does this extend to
The old one says residents afternoon 10 to 5, non-residents afternoon 10 to 5. And of course, your folks at out front had recommended 8 to 10. Now, the only reason I could suspect that is they've had people that said, hey, can we get in there at 8 in the morning? So and the answer on the old form is nope, 10 o'clock. So,
well, if somebody rents, if they say I've got an activity at 4 o'clock this afternoon and I rent the hall, what they're posed with is they get it from 8 to 10 for $150.
right.
and they're not in here for 2 hours, so we can't use it for another meeting during the day, then
This is
they,
getting way too
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah,
It's really not
just-
complicated.
Yeah, it's not, but it's not, you opening to just 8 a.m. to 10 begs the question. That's the problem. I know what you're saying. Look, Jim, I know what you're saying. At 10 in the morning, a group wants to come from 10 to noon.
Yeah.
And then a group wants to come.
We
from
juggle that all the time.
3 to 4. It's juggled.
Yeah,
every
but
day.
Health of Higgins Lake now has how many committees?
We're juggling it, Mary Jo. That's what I'm saying. It's,
Okay.
I mean, I know what happened to your Parks and Rec the other day, but that was me forgetting to put on the calendar that our auditor was coming.
Okay.
Our auditor was here. That was what happened.
I wasn't
Oh,
referring to that. I'm
so
just
we had a conversation.
clarifying.
Yes, she
I
did.
didn't know. Okay, all right. Well, I'm
Just
open-
clarifying.
so our Health of Higgins Lake committees, our 5-member committee is a $50 charge that gets
No,
JV'd or something?
No, they're part of the township.
they're part of the township.
Township project.
She's talking about when they meet near.
Where does it say that?
I don't have a problem with it.
They just gotta make sure they put it on the calendar. For sure.
Yeah,
All these,
be correct.
all these little small committees.
I personally myself, I don't have, we do juggle this every day here in this hall. And with security and with also where it's posted and all the rest of that. I don't have a problem with moving to these pricings and the changing of this particular document. I don't have a problem with it, but if we want.
You guys are good with it. I'm.
If somebody wants to revert it, go
All
ahead.
you're talking about is changing the pricing, really, for the most part.
And she updated some verbiage.
Yeah.
Really not much, but like I said, it seems innocuous to me and our prices are absurdly low when compared to others. Yep. What's your pleasure?
I'm good with it.
Are we good enough to craft a motion for Tuesday night or do you want to wait and do it next month?
I'm good.
I'm good. So we're looking for a motion then to approve the proposed June, it says June, it'll be July 2025 hall rental application and fees accordingly, right? Take a second potty break. Okay. All right, moving right along, then on to the GFL update. I'll just make it clear. Jim Anderson or Jim Ossing and I met with GFL. Our contract is coming up in 26 with them. And I wanted to get some idea and a proposed contract before we met for budgeting in December for on the expense side. We had a good conversation with them. They're happy with continuing or wanting to continue to serve and are interested in a renewal contract. And I think we are too. And he proposed most of theirs are getting what, or I shouldn't say most of theirs. He did 3%. 3% each year. We can talk about the years, whether you want 3-year, 5-year, whatever you'd like to do. He's gonna send something to me. We're not approving anything at this point. But so I'm presuming I shouldn't say presuming, he's gonna send us a 5-year at 3% each year. They're also removing fuel surcharge piece that is in that contract now. So.
That's a January renewal, is that right?
No, no, it's July or something, the 26th.
Next July.
It's just in next budget year. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is the winter tax bills coming up. If we're gonna.
He's gonna get that. I should expect to have it in the next month.
Yeah. Because we need to figure out what the change in special assessment's gonna be.
Absolutely. He promised us that at that meeting. So I just wanted to update y'all on that, and we'll continue to get that to where it gets presentable to the township board. Michelle, bid opening asphalt seal coating. We have one bid.
Which was very surprising. You can see it hasn't been tampered with. I will pass this over to you, sir.
Yeah, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
So this bid comes in from Smith Line Stripping and Seal Coating out of Morris Road and Birch Run. Somehow they figured this at 71,000 square foot of asphalt to be edged, power swept, 2 coats of gem seal, So I get, and the price includes all 7 parking lots that were delineated on the piece. And the approach is the 2997 and the 3075 approach to the compost. And this is $18,900 is the total. And they have provided references for United Properties, Midland Public Schools, the Turkey Roost Restaurant, which I just saw their job because I ate there not too long ago, actually. And I said, "Hey, it's been done." So I would say at this point, let me review and compare and contrast to make sure that it meets all the bid specs exactly. And before we come and say, well, looking for this, will it get done by Tuesday? There's no chance. So with your permission.
Please.
You okay?
Yes, sir.
So that bid's good for how many days?
30 some odd, 30 days. Let's see. The bid is good. 7/2 is when it was authored. Payments are due upon completion, 30 days upon completion. And I'm not seeing anything in here. There's nothing here that indicates how long that price is for. So that'll come with me contacting them, obviously.
All right.
And then I'll explain what our process piece is. And I also like to compare it to the last ones that we had done too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, around here. Price wise, although last time we had done it was over 3 years ago. So it's 3 years, time, material, and whatever could be the difference. So, okay. Moving along then, electric and plumbing mechanical inspector contracts are due to expire August 31st of 25. You added this, you have the data?
I just wanted to speak to it that I got with both the inspectors and reminded them that their contracts would be up, and I believe we want to keep what we have. And asked them to look through and see if there was anything that they wanted changed or anything like that. So they're doing that, and then we should have we're gonna have to do something in the month of August. I just wanted to talk to it.
I'm gonna hand this out. Tom Barber, music clue. It's this morning. This is just that formal piece, and we'll have to craft the motion. Yeah. That piece regarding the cell tower for Tweed. Okay.
Thank you.
Basically.
All right, that was the last item on the agenda. The planned agenda here. We have public comments. Anybody out there have any more?
Everybody left us.
Okay, very good. Apparently we don't care about it. All right, very good. I'm going to go to board announcements then. Board announcements.
I have a question.
Joe, yes.
So the HOHL Communication Committee is wondering if we have access to a big sign, if it would be possible. We're not sure we want to do it like this, but to put one, it's a, rolling sign, a lettering sign, Anyway, John Davis happens to have a couple, and he's willing to keep one on over by Lion Market, this. And we were wondering about the cemetery, in front of the cemetery,
For what?
to advertise the HOHL open house for July 19th.
Oh, one time?
One-time thing. Yeah, for, however that is, a week or more.
Put them in the road right away. That goes through the road.
Right? I think we put it next to the fence.
If it's on our property, then is that what you're asking?
Right.
And
If
then
the
on
board,
west side, where would that be?
John owns a building that I think he used to be an antique store or something that used to be next to the Roscommon State Bank. I mean, we're going way back. Like True Value.
It used to be Yordy's Antiques over by.
Oh, Yordy's.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, he owns that building and he said we could put one there.
And looking just to advertise that open house only.
Right,
Then that's it.
right, just the open house. And put it one by the cemetery. Now, we're gonna see if, except it's not, it's Crawford County. One of the members said, let's put one on the federal highway, over by, it's Beaver Creek, it's Crawford, but I don't have a problem with it, but by the, where B&B owns that big barn. Where B&B on, like across from Cottage Grove, across the street. I don't know how they're gonna get, I guess ask B&B. But if we can't do it there, I figure since we're already here, I can get permission if we need to.
Make sure they stay out of trouble with it.
Yeah, I'd
Keep
encourage you to
yourself-
think that through pretty good. I don't know that that's a great idea, but I'm not gonna dictate for the communications committee either. If that's what they really want to do and the board wants, but you're gonna get the board to weigh in on it next week. So we gotta get it on the agenda if you want the board to take some action on it.
Okay.
At John's place, he has signs, he has a couple signs there and they usually have some message on them. I'd be okay with that one. I'm not too sure I'm okay with the cemetery.
Cemetery?
Especially if we've got the lit sign right out here.
Yeah, but that, you can't, it's got so much stuff on it. I don't, you try reading it.
Feels like my brain.
I think I'm
Yeah.
angry.
I know.
Yeah. Talk through that again with that board, make sure that's really what they really want to do. I'd say John's and nothing over, then this sign out here, the
All right.
electronic sign
Electronic sign,
and the marina sign.
right?
Marina's electronic sign.
Okay, and then if you're gonna put something on the side of the road somewhere, you've gotta have a permit for the road permit.
Right.
What's that?
Signs out there all the time.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's.
That was fine.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
That's why I
think,
thought close to the fence.
I was looking at the drawing and I'm not positive, but I think just FYI, the cemetery has got a 33 right away,
That's
and
correct.
then it's another, we own a chunk of property before the fence.
We do.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
So it could go in there where.
go
we-
tight to the fence.
Right.
But,
Missing.
were you, Mary Jo, whatever you work with Muzz.
Yeah, we'll-
Just whatever you put up, make sure it doesn't violate anybody's ordinances.
Okay.
Including our own or others.
All right.
And we don't circumvent the road commission.
Right. Yeah, no, I know that part.
I know that there's an elaborate amount of work goes into anything that you see, like for the 4th of July weekend. And then,
Right.
we have to jump through every hoop that you do. We have this torch run, we do all of that. We have to have permits. And so, all right, well, you guys kind of correlate there.
Yeah, Mary Jo, let's talk
And then-
to me.
And then somebody, you're gonna have to tell me, because right after this meeting is done and tomorrow there, we're gonna get out the agenda for the 16th, our regular township board meeting this month. And so, yeah, it's a Wednesday. It's an odd one this time,
Oh.
but we've got to create an agenda and I got to create some motions. Okay. So currently right now, just to close that portion of it up, I've got a motion, I've got a formal swearing in of Dallas. I've got 3 motions that we'll probably do an A, B, and C on for the cell tower. I've got a motion to approve the July 2025 hall application and a proposed fee structure. And then number 4 for you. Michelle, do you have anything else that we need to add in that? Yeah, did you catch any, Lynn? All right, very good. Okay, announcements again. Mary Jo.
I'm done.
All right, Michelle.
That's all I wanted.
Okay. Jim, Osling.
I'm good.
Jim.
Taxes are out. Everybody should got their bills.
Yeah.
Planning Commission tonight, we'll be talking about the septic ordinance and we got 2 bids on for master plan to consider, which will then eventually come to this board for approval.
Okay, very good. I only have the one announcement here. That is just for I guess, the general public and for YouTube. The Higgins Lake Level Special Assessment public informational meeting for Higgins Lake is scheduled for Wednesday, August 6th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the Roscommon High School. And then there's an assessment hearing in their timeline schedule for September 2nd, 2025. It's a Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Roscommon High School. That was passed on to me by Commissioner Morley. And yep, there you be. And I don't have anything else. If there is nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting at 12:04.
I'll make that motion.
Mary Jo makes the motion.
Second.
Second, Treasurer Anderson. And any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you again, folks. Thank you all for coming. Whatever's left now.
Oh.
Thanks for staying.